Hey, people, you can thank me now. I got a best-selling author on the platform, Kim Parker, the good Dr. Kim Parker, Kimberly N. Parker,
My whole government.
who published this bestseller right here, Literacy is Liberation, Working Toward Justice Through Culturally Relevant Teaching. Listen, folks, Kim is a powerhouse. If you don't know now, you know. You got to listen to her in person. I was blessed. Kim is part of hashtag Disrupt Tax, a powerful collective of women who are just out there shaking things up and causing people to wrestle with some discomfort around their classics and whatnot. I love it. I got to listen to Kim recently at NCTE at the National Council of Teachers of English Conference in Anaheim, California. And that was my first time listening to Kim in person. And Kim, you have a powerful voice, you have a powerful presence, and you are one sharp cookie. You on point. I was listening to you. I'm like, yeah, this is good stuff from these amazing women, and I love the way the four of you work together. Obviously, Julia wasn't there, but witnessing you and Lord Anna and Trisha just be so in sync and so passionate about the issues that you're addressing, the content that you teach, but more importantly, the people that you serve, the people that you serve. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Know that you are loved and seen for the impact that you are having in this world. And I'm grateful that you've taken the time to join me here in our classroom. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. That was so warm and wonderful, Roberto. I really appreciate you. I'm happy that we could make this work. Thank you.
It was all honest, Kim, even though I've been chasing you for months. But here we are. Here we are, folks. And I want to center our time. There's so much that we could talk about. And I was thinking about, like, all right, where can we go here that might be revelation to some folks? And so I want to, first of all, congratulate you for publishing this bestseller.
Thank you.
Literacy is Liberation, Working Towards Justice Through Culturally Relevant Teaching. And I want to start our conversation by asking, why the focus on culturally relevant teaching? How has this guided your work? And I'm asking not for myself, because I've read the book. I'm asking for those that haven't read the book, those who may be unfamiliar with your work. I think it's important for them to know why this focus and why it is that culturally relevant teaching guides your work, influences your work. There was so much inspiration here and credit, given where credit needed to be due. So I'll pause and let you share with us.
Yeah, I appreciate that question, right? I feel like so much of culturally relevant teaching and relevant pedagogy is sort of assumed, but not really known, right? I think even in my own practice, I would be like, well, this is culturally relevant pedagogy or culturally responsive teaching. But forgetting, right, that it's very like there are three pretty central pillars of it that we have to be doing all three to really be doing culturally relevant teaching as Gloria Ladson-Billing defines it. And so I wanted first to like refresh it for myself to make sure that it was good for me and that that's still the foundation on which all of my practice stands. And that's accurate now and has been since I've been a practitioner. But then also I feel like people say that they're doing it, but they're not doing it. And so much of, like Lorena's work and everyone else's work comes from that or is, like drawing from that. And so I felt like, let me just start with this and then people will go where they go. So it was really important for me to understand and refresh it and to make sure I knew it and aligned with it. And then I wanted to help other people also understand that because I think we talk a lot about what we're doing, but we're not really doing it.
Breanne Brown, you did cite in your book, but you didn't cite what I'm about to say. Breanne Brown says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
Hey, there it is. Right. That's right.
And so that's what you're doing then. That's good stuff. I appreciate that. I think we do need that. I think we do need to continue to revisit the differences between culturally relevant teaching, culturally responsive teaching, culturally sustaining teaching,
right?
and anything culturally and whatever, you know, follows.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too that it gives us the power to be able to push back and to say, like, this ain't it, right? Like what y'all saying is actually harming children instead of you all saying you're aligned with this. So, I mean, we have to know our stuff to be able to say, like, no, right? This is not serving children in ways that actually get us to justice.
Yeah, you talk about that notion of how we may be harming children in your book. You also talk about the need for healing, um, healing and dealing with healing and trauma through curriculum, through literacy and whatnot. We're not necessarily going to go there right now, but I do want to hear you talk about the title of chapter 3, right? The defining culturally relevant, intentional literacy communities,
Yeah.
CRILCs. This is good stuff. Can you provide a general overview and then offer a specific example of what it looks like in practice? Because I'm not sure this is a term that folks are commonly familiar with, and I think they should be. So, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was always sort of driven by the need. I mean, we are human beings, right? So we're definitely wired to belong to each other and to be connected to each other. And I think that, like, I've worked mostly with Black kids for most of my educational career, and so many of them felt like they could not belong, or that they didn't belong, or that they weren't seen. And to really get them to be and realize who they want to be, right? They have to feel like they matter. And so that is not by chance. It's not like being like, here you are in this space, get along. That just doesn't work. And so we have to be intentional about what it means. We have to be intentional about addressing how they got to us, right? Mostly 9th and 10th graders, if they're not reading, something has happened to them. And also, I think if we're not intentional about addressing that, to say, you know, like, I welcome all of you here. Yes, this might have happened to you, and also that's not who you are or who you want to be, or you don't have to stay here. So there are particular practices, right, that enable kids to be able to feel like they are literacy achievers in this space, right? We have to design it. We cannot leave it to chance. So much of it has been left to chance. That's why we sort of have the current situation that we have. And I think part of that really is developing a real strong reading culture where kids can read whatever they want. Because, right, like, they've been shamed, stigmatized, prevented from reading what they've wanted probably by the time they've gotten to us. And it's happening to little kids too, right? First, second graders. And so that's one solid piece of it, is that we have to, like, protect kids' reading freedom and give them the time and space to read while they are with us. We cannot leave it to anyone else, right? Intentionally creating the space, the time, the structures, the instruction, the pedagogy that helps them to see themselves as worthy and valuable of having really robust reading lives.
How do you, or what do you advise for teachers and or school leaders who perhaps they want to explore this, but they're feeling the tension? And this is coming up in a lot of my interviews because this is the reality that we're dealing with, right? So for folks who are in states like the one I'm in, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in a Florida, you're in a Texas, you're in some of these places where you're getting serious pushback. Some of the pushback may be from parents. Some of it may be from your school leaders. Some of it may be, maybe some even your colleagues, right? Some of it may be on the legislative level. Yeah. What's your advice for educators who are in those situations where, like, man, I want to find ways to present my learners with opportunities to read whatever they want to read and encourage reading that also affirms multiple identities and whatnot. But I got this real tension, and this tension might cost me my job. And I know I'm better served being here or the students are, better served by me being here as opposed to them replacing me with somebody who's just gonna, all go with the company line and like not gonna expose the kids to anything and just, stick to the things that we've been teaching for a long time, some of which may be harmful, right? So for folks who are in those situations, what do you offer them?
Yeah, like I do not have a quick and fast solution. I know it's very tricky. I also know that I have to live with myself, right? So I just am not gonna do harm to kids. And I know that for all of those things, you know it too, we all know it, that if we are denying kids books, if we are denying them like opportunities to really like see themselves, that is not a place where I want to be, first of all. And then two, I think I was working with a school last week that I said, well, where is the opposition coming from? Right? It's like a small group of people that are taking up all of the space. And so
that's usually how it is.
Yeah, exactly. And so I said, well, first of all, right, like you're focusing on like 1% of all of them, when like 99% of your other families probably want you to be teaching these books to their kids. And so I first think that we got to like understand sort of the situation. I know that group, that faction is really organized, right? They're very good at what they do, but also so are we, right? We are teachers. We can plan, we can do these things, we can organize, right? I feel like we are born to organize. And if we don't, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. So I think I'm more now, I think like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I'd be like, I'm just going to close my door and teach. Right. Okay. So I feel like we are in a new day where we got to like open people's doors and to be like, this is what we need to do. Right. We need to work with our school department. We need to find the people. We need to work with the willing. And also like, we got to like educate folks. They haven't even read these books. All these people who are out here with these like, don't read. They don't even read books. So I don't know, like, I'm not going to be afraid of these folks because I got to live with myself. And I also have kids and my friends have kids. And so, like, what kind of world do we want them to have and to inhabit? Like, I want them to be able to have critical discourse. I want them to ask critical questions. I want them to be right out there. And so, if I want that for them, I want that for everybody's children, right? And that Breanne Brown, courage over comfort, right? All these people selecting and choosing comfort over courage when we really got to be courageous right now.
Yeah. Folks, we're not getting paid for shouting out Breanne Brown. Just
I know, right? Like, no, we are not. It's just like she gives you like these tidbits that you're like, well, yes, well, yeah,
yes. The rumblings. Right. So, Sheldon L. Akins and I recently discussed vulnerability, and I noticed that you state CRILCs are places where vulnerability is necessary. And folks, in case you missed it, let me reiterate, it's culturally relevant, intentional literacy communities. All right. So that these are places where vulnerability is necessary. Why is that the case? And what is an example of this vulnerability that you speak of?
Yeah, right. I mean, again, right, sort of my old self now sort of looking ahead to the educator I'm becoming every day, right? You cannot get anywhere without being vulnerable, right? We can just be sort of reactive and responding every day, or, right, like we can put a little on the line and admit our mistakes, right? Get to really know kids. And I also think that we shouldn't expect kids to be vulnerable. Right. They coming in with all of their stuff, particularly for kids of color, right? They might have been harmed or things have happened to them. We can't just be like, tell me all of your pains and your worries and it's all going to be okay. That I think is false. And like, it's just not okay. But I think if we sort of start with ourselves and think about like all the ways we have been harmed first by schooling or whatever else, or literacy practices, right? And then like be real honest with kids where it makes sense, not to over emote or to do those things, but to say, right, like I have engaged in harmful practices in my past, right? Like I've done things that have not been in the best interest of children, and I am sorry, right? Like I think being accountable, making really meaningful apologies for the harm that we have done, saying it to children, right? I don't think we say enough to children, right? We don't apologize enough. It's like we're afraid of children, but again, like we are in the work of being raised by young people and children. And so like I want them to be able to acknowledge when they have messed up, right? We mess up all the time. And so vulnerability is key, right? Like when we mess up, we need to fix it, and to fix it immediately, because otherwise, right, these kids move on the next year, or they go out into the world and they carry that with them. And I just, again, right, like, do we want that going with them, or do we want to just stop and like do our best to fix it while we have the opportunity?
Yeah, and you get into the importance of restorative practices, and there were some to-dos
Mm-hmm.
that you challenge folks to process in terms of reflection questions that will unveil some realities in terms
Yeah.
of things that we engage in the way that perhaps we've harmed others, and the fact that we do need to consider some repair. Thank you for doing that. I think
I mean,
it's
we're human beings, so it's going to happen, right? Like we just, it happens. It unfortunately happens, and I think, right, like who do you want to be, right? Like who do you want to be? As Saeed Jones said, like who do you want to be when the morning light finds you? And right, like I want to be a person who actually believes in restoration, who believes in justice, who believes in like making it right, and making it right for like people right now, because like we ain't gonna live forever. We're not. We're just not.
that is the reality. Yeah, I definitely I think about kids that I cause harm to, and there's certain ones that come to mind. There's others that I likely cause harm to, and I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I probably not even aware of that, right? But there's ones that I'm clear about, in terms of my approach as a teacher, my approach as a school leader, especially when I was overseeing discipline and some of the, like getting sucked into the vacuum of the system, even though like I knew and I was opposed, right? At least I was cognitively opposed. But then when I was in it,
Right. That's like,
I
that's what is
yo,
hard, because like the system, like Miriam Kaba, right? The purpose of the system is to do what it does. And so, right, when you're in it, you're like, you're supposed to write these children up, send them over there, push them out, exclude them, call their parents, tell them they got to come and get them, like all of these things, right? If you, but it also, I've noticed for myself that you got to like actively do it all the time, because it's like unlearning all the time. Like you gotta
no,
like
that's the
detox yourself every single minute of the day.
listen. I was AP in a school in my city, and I was so excited to be there. I was elated. It was a joy for me to be there. You know what I'm saying? Like coming back to the hometown, like literally the hood I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, even though I came in like high spirits, like we're gonna change this, we're gonna change that, that wasn't the reality. I guess I was more out of touch with how strong the system was, and
I don't
and
know if
how
I would say it's that. That's interesting. Keep going. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'll come back to that.
and how much rewiring I needed.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's like I same. So much of that resonates, because yes, you go into it being like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be different, I'm gonna try these things. And then you realize it's like you are one person. People are comfortable with systems too, right? Like
Yes, yes.
when a child is not doing what you need them to do, it's easy to be like, you gotta go. I just spent my time in like this school where I was sitting in the office. All of these Black boys just coming in, coming in, coming in. And they would sit with the secretary, and they would the same reasons, right? um Not letting other people learn, not doing these things. There was all the things that they were not doing, and you just are like, oh, this. And they were like little. It was from K to 6. I think I saw a child from every single grade within the span of an hour, right? And I was like, these are somebody's children. These are
Right.
someone's children. And I get it that they are like doing whatever it is that they're in school, but why don't we find out like really why, before we're so quick to just be like, get out? Like we love kicking kids out of school. We love it. We
Right,
love
right,
it. It's awful.
right. Yeah, I left that school and I went to then we moved from Massachusetts to Texas, and I was in a Montessori school, public
Mm-hmm.
Montessori, and that's where, I mean, I still went through some things there, because again, the whole notion of like rewiring
Yeah.
your understanding of how school operates and how you treat kids and how you treat kids of color, and whether that's like conscious or unconscious, but like the manifestation is still the
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it took like me being in that environment, and over time like seeing like, oh, wait a second, like there's a whole different vibe here in terms of how we do things, and with this Montessori approach. Not to say that like that happens in all my, even in that school, like we had our issues or whatnot, but it wasn't as prevalent as was the other school. Like there was a lot more like, all right, we're gonna work with the kids in a different way. We're gonna do a lot more restorative practices. We got we got the garden, in the back of the classroom, and you could go out there and like they can have some time to connect with nature and kind of reset and whatnot. And so being in that environment, like really helped. It helped me to soften up. That's kind of like the easy way I could say it. Like I came from this hard line of like, yo, nah, like
you gotta go. Right. This is the highway. It's my way or the
it's
highway.
my way.
Yes,
I literally used to say, like when I was a basketball coach, I literally used to say, I got a particular kid in mind. I still feel bad to this day. And I like, I got to figure out his contact. I got to reach out and apologize. Then I got another kid that I coached at another school. I got to reach out and apologize, but I don't remember his name. But nonetheless,
but they remember, right? Like whenever you do, it will be the right time. That's what I try to also remember, is that like it's always the right time to like make it right. And it'll mean something, right?
Yeah.
Like just, and even if you model it for those kids, like, we mess up. We're human beings.
So you were talking earlier, you mentioned kind of like your old self, versus kind of who you are now. And it made me think about something you wrote in the book in terms of your learning experience and what you were reading in school versus the text and content you were exposed to in home, including Ebony, Jet, and then all types of like wonderful literary works. Right? You had the magazines sitting over there, and you used to dust in that area, but then you had these strong texts that were available to you, and so you had mentioned Edith Wharton and Kerouac, and that's what you were reading in school. And so it makes me wonder if you were in school right now, or if we transport you back then, and like there was an opportunity to change what you were reading in schools, and there was a teacher who's like, nah, I'm taking your feedback. What do you want to read? What are some of the texts that you as a student would say, hey, teacher X, I would like to read, I want the class to read the following text.
Oh yeah. Like we're going back to like high school.
Yes.
1990, like early 90s, like the best decade ever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that I would read, like, I don't think we read any work by Black people.
I know you said that. You said that.
Yeah, right. I would love it if we had read like some Gloria Naylor, right? Women of Brewster Place. I love her. Some Octavia Butler, some poetry. And this is what it's, even things that we were reading at home, right? Some history, something, right? Like my world was like, okay, Jet, you're gonna get like a little bit of condensed text, you're gonna get a little bit more in Ebony, but any of those things, right? Any Black people on posters, right? Like there were Black people, or even learning about the history of Black people in Lexington, Kentucky, right? Because like Kentucky was at the top, sort of like in the South, right? It was right below Ohio. So there was a whole history of people who were enslaved, but also lots of people who were freeing themselves, right? You just had to make it to Ohio. You just had to get across. And that is what is incredible, right? Like maybe that's why we all try to get out of there. We're getting out of Kentucky. But like any of that history, I didn't learn any of that history during school. And I think it's really important for Black kids, particularly in that context in the South and rural areas, to know that y'all got a history. You've got a lineage of fugitivity and escape, and you can get out of here, or you can be free in yourself. But this is your history. So I would have made sure that those books were being taught, and maybe it's different. I mean, I'm about to go home to Kentucky, so I'm gonna look and see if I can find it. I would not be surprised if they're reading the same books.
Right. Well, let's hope that's not the case, and let's hope that the work that you and others been doing has disrupted that.
Right. Yes. That's what we do, the work. I mean, that's every day. I'm just reminded of that. And my partner said, like every day someone is waking up and being like, oh my God, there's such a thing as disrupt text. So like every day the possibility exists that maybe someone can do something different.
That's right. That's right. I didn't have this question prepared, but it came to mind as I continue to look at your book and how your name's written. and it's a question that I had asked Sheldon. What does what does this middle initial, what this N, what does it stand for?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Nicole.
Okay.
Nicole.
Okay. I gotta, I just see stuff like this and I'm like,
Yes, like
I,
what mhm.
I gotta know. I'm like,
But when
I,
people are like calling me
I'm,
out in my full government, I'm like, something's going on.
I'm like, I just know her as Kim Parker,
Yes, right.
now I see this N here and I'm like, wait, I don't even know who you are.
I know my professional name.
So, all right. If you had the opportunity to have lunch with any author dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, oh my God, that's a great one. You know what? Like I think about I would have dinner with Adrienne Maree Brown. I love them. I just like everything resonates. I feel like at the right moment, the right time, emergent strategy, all the strategies just like speak to me in ways that I'm like, all right, let me get myself together. Has really impacted how I think about organizing and working with people and thinking about the purpose of why we do it. So yes, Adrienne Maree Brown for sure.
So, and I'm pretty sure you referenced Brown in your book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love it. Like this is why it's really great to be a learner because like I didn't know about Adrienne Maree Brown like 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, maybe before the pandemic. I don't know. I feel like the pandemic happened and then like everything
Yes.
changed, but only recently. I think in the last 5 years, and like we're always open to learning new things. So I'm really happy that I found that book and I found their work and everything else.
That's right. That's right. So, for those who are listening, what is a message of encouragement you want to offer them?
Yeah, you know what? Like, keep going and bring somebody with you.
I like that. I like that. Keep going and bring somebody with you. While you bring them with you, folks, make sure you give them a copy of Literacy is Liberation, Working Towards Justice Through Culturally Relevant Teaching by Kimberly N. Parker. Hey, it's been a pleasure.
This was so wonderful. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes, yes. Listen, it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait, Keep emailing you and chasing you down, but
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm happy we made this work too.
no, no,
Before
no,
the year
no.
ended. Look at
No,
us.
no.
Look at
Listen,
us.
you don't have to apologize because the opportunity to sit here and hear from you and tap into your insight, um, just have this, some perspective that perhaps I'm not, necessarily thinking about at the moment. It helps me. It challenges me. It encourages me, and I need that. I want to grow. I want to learn. This is what our classroom's about.
Yay. And I'm just gonna say I can't wait for your book. I'm
Oh
ready. I'm
yes,
ready
yes,
to read
yes,
it. I'm
yes.
ready, ready, ready.
Yes.
Yay.
And the January, Blue Ink Tears, and the
Woo.
January. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
we
I'm
coming.
ready.
We're coming. We're coming.
Excellent.
Well, Kim, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Um, keep pressing on, stay encouraged in the work that you're doing. You're having a huge impact in this world. You're having a huge impact in the schools in which you're serving in. And we're fortunate to be able to witness all of your greatness.
You know what? Thank you. Same here. Same. I'm reflecting it all back to you.